Welcome to Politics Unplugged. I'm Marshall Zelinger.
And I'm Ann Trujillo. Donald Trump back in Colorado this weekend, trying to gain a few more voters before the election on Tuesday. His visit coming just a day after former President Bill Clinton made 3 stops here in our state, trying to drum up support for his wife Hillary. Former presidential candidates Bernie Sanders and Ben Carson also making stops in Colorado during these final days before the election. And here's why Colorado is so important. Look at this. A poll released by the University of Denver last week shows Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump tied at 39%. And think about this. 1 in 10 voters still undecided about who they are going to vote for.
He doesn't look too happy about it in that photo. Here to talk about why this race is so close and historic, I'm joined by Paul Teske, the Dean of the School of Public Affairs at the University of Colorado, Denver. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
What are your thoughts on that DU poll that shows it tied 39-39?
Well, I think a lot of the polls nationally show that things are closing compared to a week or 2 ago. On the other hand, I don't think has been too many other polls in Colorado where Hillary has not been ahead. So it's surprising, and every poll has a little bit of, bounce one way or the other. There's other polls that have it, with more of a Clinton lead, but it's certainly, we're a key state and it's close.
So the next day, the Magellan Strategies poll came out, and they're more of a conservative-leaning group based in Louisville, and it showed Clinton with a 6-point lead. So
right.
I've repeatedly said polls are crap. So how do we have this even and 6 points? I mean, that's a wide range of difference there.
Right. Well, I think the methodologies obviously are gotten more complicated with people not answering their phone and cell phones and not knowing how to get to people. And the race has probably moved around a little, but it's still, in my mind, it's probably still a small Clinton lead, and whether that evaporates before Tuesday or holds is the big question, I guess.
All right, needless to say, this election has been unlike any other. What are the major factors that you think have played a role in how people vote?
Well, it's been very divisive, obviously, huge unfavorables for both candidates, a lot of negative advertising, which is always the case, and a lot of, as you said, a very unusual revelations about, the tape a few weeks ago now, the Access Hollywood tape for Trump, and the email issue for Hillary that hasn't seemed to have gone away, and the FBI stuff coming out. So it's just a challenging election, I think, for a lot of voters, and I think also coming, really on the second Tuesday of the month, it's as late as it can be, and it just seems like it's been a long cycle, right?
Well, I know. Finally, we find out why the law is written the first Tuesday after the first Monday, right. November 8th. So are there lessons learned from this election about how to respond to whatever, in the case, like we're talking about the tape and the email, about how to respond and how not to respond?
That's a great question. I mean, I think so much of this election is unusual, and and in terms of those high unfavorabilities, the debates were also unusual. I think I don't know. I know if this is the way elections are going to be in the future, we'll just have to see. But my guess is it'll go back to something a little more normal as the candidates are different than what we've seen.
If we had Clinton Rubio, Clinton Cruz, or even Trump Sanders,
right,
would we have the same type of campaigns that we're seeing right now? Would the attacks be the same?
There'd be similarities, but I think the long history of the Clintons, particularly, and the out of the norm kind of campaign that Trump has run has really made it different. I think if it was 2 other candidates, it would be a little different. Yeah.
Do you think what we've experienced this election cycle leads to any changes in terms of a party breakup? I mean, if you look at history books, we used to have parties besides Democrats and Republicans, and at some point, is that going to happen where we start fracturing away and having other parties again?
Well, I think if the polls are right and if Clinton wins and Trump loses, I think the Republicans really have an interesting conversation. It's not one they haven't had before about what the demographics are that are changing in the country and what their policies are. I think a lot of pundits have kind of oversold that. The Republicans are still very strong at the state and local level. They'll probably retain the House. They may well retain the Senate. That's going to be close. So it's not like they've gone away, but it's really the presidential level where I think demography and trends and policies seem to not necessarily be in their direction, and they need to rethink that.
Will we have 2 Republican parties of some sort in 4 years?
I don't think so, but I think there's got to be a lot of questions at the Paul Ryan Republican level if indeed Clinton wins about how to do they cooperate a little more? Do they oppose everything, what does that look like, and how does that position them for 2020? And how do you balance, the interests of your party with the interests of the country in terms of, actually moving some issues forward and making progress?
All right, in a sentence, 100 years from now, or 108 years from now, go Cubs, how will this election be remembered?
Boy, I think is one of the most unusual. I really do. I think and it's it's on both sides. I don't want to say it's one or the other, but it's largely it's been more on the Trump side in terms of the way the campaign has been run and where he came from and the kinds of issues he's taken on and the way he's done it. So win or lose, I think that's going to be very memorable 108 years from now.
All right, Paul Teske from CU Denver. Thanks for being here.